Rightio. So this episode is a little bit different. I'm joined by not one, but two guests. Jack Miller, who you might recognise from Married at First Sight. Although that's not his best claim to fame. He's also a DJ and a content creator and just an overall good bloke.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't think you remember me from the Logies, do you?
You're at the Logies?
Yeah, we chatted.
I had one too many beverages at the Logies.
I remember.
Did we have a good chat?
It's fine.
Oh, God, that's funny and so embarrassing.
And also on this episode, we have unprecedented access to Dr. Claire Bormer, who is the medical director at Family Planning, and she's here to answer all of our burning questions.
So burning.
No pun intended. But first up on Talking Frank, we have listeners from our podcast or people from our Talking Frank community that send in little voice notes or messages about things that they might have an issue with or things that they want some advice for. And so what we do is we play them, and at any point, if you want to say something or it sparks something that you want to address, just pop your hand up and we can discuss.
Is there like a safe word we need to say just to stop it on the spot? Or
we can come up with one.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Let's go red light, green light.
You happy with that?
Sure.
Great. Let's go. So this one has been sent in by Alice.
Mad.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about my experience with an STI. So I had chlamydia when I was 21. I caught it from a random guy, my first ever one-night stand. So I've been with boyfriends before in the past and, didn't think anything of not necessarily wearing a condom because I was on the pill. And yes, my first ever one-night stand, he pulled the whole, I don't have a condom. So
Red light.
Big one for you.
Not into that.
Why?
Because he's
obvious reasons.
No, but I don't like the idea that he's just sat there and lied about I don't have a condom. I'll just go with it. It'll be fine. I just know that that's coming.
Yeah. If you're going into sex without being prepared, you probably don't want to be sleeping with that person, right?
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing is she identifies this as her first one-night stand, but we know that people can get STIs in long-term relationships, and anyone who's having sex can get an STI. So just to flag, we think of more risk maybe with a new partner, and and anyone who's had sex can get an STI.
And do you think if you've not had sex before that having a little kit or being prepared yourself is a good way to go into...
I think it's a lot harder to think about negotiating those difficult situations if you're getting intimate with someone and they throw in at you, hey, actually, I don't have a condom, let's keep going. I think it's a lot harder to be assertive and know how to respond when you haven't been in that situation before. So certainly thinking about whether you want to carry some condoms as well, not that it should be just one person's responsibility.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
But having a bit of a plan to keep yourself safe and probably nice to think about that before you're in the situation could help.
I agree, but that's why I always carry one, because you never know if the other person's going to have one or not.
Do you have on the edge of your wallet, is there just the ring on the back that's just been warning because you've had a condom in your wallet for so long?
No, because I don't carry cash, so I don't have a wallet. But back in the day, I did, and I had one of those like little dicky ones that had like, it was tiny.
Check the expiry if it's been in there a long time.
If it's left an impression on the leather, it's
Maybe
time to
too
go.
old.
Yeah. But I unzipped it to like pull out cash to pay for a coffee, and curled up inside of the note was a condom, and it just landed between me and the barista, and there was this like Western movie stare down where I was like, that's mine, sorry, and just like slid it back over to myself.
Really slowly and nonchalantly whilst like looking up.
Sorry, I'm always prepared. All right, let's keep going. Let's listen.
I guess the process of finding out that I had an STI, at the time I had no idea what was going on. I was symptomatic. I had to basically pee every 2 minutes. And I remember telling my mum that I had diabetes because that's what I was studying at uni. And
red light. I really find it interesting that it is still to this day a taboo topic. I don't know how old this girl is, but she said it was when she was 21, but she sounds pretty young, so I'm assuming it's within recent history. That's still taboo to this day to even hide that from your parents.
I don't think I would tell my parents.
I think that is what needs to change, in my opinion. I mean, it depends on the relationship you have with your parents.
Probably depends on your parents too.
Yeah. I was going to say there's sort of a two-way, but I think that two-way street should be more of an open conversation. It really sounds like she didn't know anything about any sort of STI. Like she was really confused. And to the point that she told her parents she has diabetes.
I was going to say that's a huge lie to keep up. You've got that for life now.
Yeah.
And I guess in a way she was lucky that she realised she had it early because she had symptoms. We know that lots of people don't get symptoms.
Really?
So no doubt we'll talk about STI screening in this section, and I guess part of that's because it's not always going to the toilet a lot that will flag for you that you've got an STI.
I love that you're edging us into what's to come.
Yeah, I know. Is that a little
going
warmer?
Let's go.
I had absolutely no idea it could have been an STI. So I went to the doctor and got a urine and blood test to check for it. And when it came back positive, I was just absolutely mortified. I remember I called my best friend at the time. She told her mum, and then, of course, the mum told the other mum in the friendship group. The problem with that
Red
was
light.
that
They were gossiping about this girl's.
How awful is that?
That's horrible.
It's a tough experience.
Yeah.
But also for like, she goes on to say that like that 25 people knew that she had an STI. That was like her mum's friends.
Friend's mum, her friend's mum's
Yeah,
mum.
yeah.
It's just.
I don't blame her now for saying she had diabetes. But,
Yeah, no. I feel
guess,
bad.
I guess you've got to really think when you've got these situations with something that's got some stigma around it still, who you feel most safe to talk to and pick safe people.
Is there any shame from doctors when you go in?
Well, there shouldn't be. You know, as a doctor myself, I like to think of this as any other part of healthcare, and people can be really embarrassed coming in. And I like to congratulate people on having the guts to do it sometimes, because especially the first time you go in for an STI check, and we often ask some personal questions, and you know, that's really to work out your risk and what tests we should be doing and when we should be doing them on you. So I try to preface that's why I'm going personal, and if I ask anything uncomfortable to let me know. But yeah, we're trained to look at the body and treat the body and keep you well, and I'm not there to judge. Day in, day out, we see people with all sorts of embarrassing conditions or that may be considered embarrassing, and we just see it as another part of healthcare and another infection that needs treatment.
Well, that's the thing. That's your job at the end of the day. It's
Yeah.
and personally, I don't think, especially talking about sex, like it's not uncommon. It's not like everything is like you're doing something weird it's nothing like that.
Well, you said in the beginning of this voice memo that you would tell your parents.
Yeah.
She told her parents, and it really backfired.
Well, let's listen to the end of this.
Okay. Oh, you don't want to address that you were wrong?
No, not often am.
Okay.
one of the mums that was told was the mother of the guy that I was sleeping with at the time. And this guy was also involved with his ex. So by the time the friend knew, the mums knew, the ex-girlfriend, her friends knew, at this point there was like 25 people at least who knew of my STI. And I was just so embarrassed and mortified by all this. I felt so dirty and slutty, like I had done something wrong because I had chlamydia. So the reality, I guess, of actually fixing chlamydia at the time, it was literally just a quick course of antibiotics, and it was so easy. But at the time, like, I was so embarrassed. It's funny though, I talk to my friends about it now in my late 20s, and it's funny how many people have had an STI and just never spoken about it. It was just at the time you thought, oh, I'm the only person this has ever happened to. But literally most of my friends have been in some sort of similar situation.
I mean, that story's pretty amazing considering it was one of the first times that she had unprotected sex.
Or that we see people who have that situation, or, you know, within what they thought was a monogamous relationship with one person and they didn't know what was happening. And this, you know, can happen to anyone who has sex. Sex is a very normal thing. She had a really bad run. That's a pretty extreme example of shaming and stigma associated with an infection. I think often the diagnosis is a big shock. That societal stigma and shame, they sometimes feel it. But then we had to have on a bit further and say, you know, I do this every day. People are getting this every day. We just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got mates who've probably had this. They just probably haven't told you. You know, normalising it and normalising how easy, you know, some infections are really easy to treat.
I think another thing that stops people from going and getting an STI test is the fear of the unknown, of like what's going to happen. So should we get into a bit of a 101 on STIs?
Yeah.